I guess this isn't such an awful.
Legend says that Hercules swept Cerberus right off his feet and effortlessly set him down softly as a songbird. Atlas kept the world upon his back, and every day wondered whether he could stand it any longer. And TheTaraReade came out to say the man they tried to label the messiah of morality was really just another rapist. And I don't intend to hesitate when asked who was the stronger. Tara, like Assange, knew that carrying the truth would be the hardest labor. Tara knew that her assailant wasn't gonna make us any safer, and knew he's just the type of man to hand a decent foreign leader US printed walking papers, and knew he'd be relentless and aggressive in the war he'd wage upon her very character, that his attempts to weaken and degrade and embarrass her would be her only compensation. But I strongly doubt that anyone could ever have foreseen the stream of hate that came from quote-unquote progressives and the self-styled titans of survivor advocation. So if you really think there's something to be gained out of sharing your pain with the world, you are sorely mistaken. The Biden team just dragged their feet addressing Tara's allegations until they had a decent list of smears, then they aired them out on every station. And it turns out no one wants to hear the truth of who they praised as being worthy of such bloated liberal celebration. That no one wants to really know the person they've so valiantly defended, even when it meant they had to gloat and shit all over someone braver than they'd be if given the occasion. Now cue the faceless comment squad invasion. Cue those fuckers crawling out the woodwork to come analyze the way you wore your hair and what you wear. Like your appearance waives your rights, or that somehow you're the reason for your situation. Somehow they've decided you should bear responsibility for what such monstrous men insist on doing. Somehow they're deluded by the empty, hypocritical, and useless fucking platitudes that bastard keeps on spewing. And I think it's very telling that the best of their excuses when they try to come and justify our president's abuses is a hearty butt Trump. In which case I'll remind you that you never saw the news attempt to sell us Donald Trump like he was morally upstanding or a decent human. But when Joe says something bigoted or ogles someone's little kid, CNN says, "Isn't this refreshing? Biden's like a mix of JFK and FDR with all the finer parts of Harry Truman." Christ, I know that they don't think that we're the brightest, but at least pretend we got a couple lumens. Ask yourself if you have ever questioned what they fed you, or do you just shut your eyes and then consume it? And now ask yourself if you ate every one of Biden's lies under guise of harm reduction and the promise of a slight improvement. And now imagine long ago that Biden chose to show you who he really was by traumatizing you for his amusement. Now imagine that you watched him touch a Bible with those filthy hands, and then assume the power of the highest seat in all the land, of knowing your attacker wields a global coalition born of three-letter agencies who'll make a life's mission out of trying to discredit you through lies, damn lies, and collusion. Big tech is never gonna separate from our surveillance state. Fuck's sakes, they're just a breath away from total fusion. So there will come a time where even if you see the light, your voice will never reach the sky through all the bots and all the noise pollution. So trust us when we tell you that the masking of abuses is perhaps this country's oldest institution. And I know nothing nobler than facing it in honor of the truth when you know that the people holding power have been neutralizing truth since there was wet ink on the Constitution. So know that Tara's truth is something crucial to the movement. And if you see yourself a partner to the revolution, help this country see through all the baseless propaganda through the crux of Joe's illusions, and recognize that TheTaraReade gave everything she had so she could tell us what the truth is.
Politics of Survival, and I'm your host, Tara Reade, and we have a really fun show tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I'm here live from Moscow, just like before. As you all know from last show, I got my asylum, so I am living here indefinitely, and still trying to maybe testify before Congress, maybe just remotely. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, I'm not going to be trotting back into a cage. But I have a tweet go viral. Reef's with me right now. Reef, do you want to bring up that tweet that went viral? Because I wanted to show it to everyone. 2 million people have looked at it. But basically, I just laid out, hey, there's a problem with the weaponization of the DOJ and the CIA and how they're going after American citizens. So do you have that? I know you got the tweet. Can you show the trailer of the new film? A new film has been made by Ninesh Souza, who I know. The MAGA Republicans. So go ahead and play it, Reef. Let's show the audience. This is coming out. That threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Chief Division Counsel and DOJ have approved a no-knock breach. We want the subject to be on display, doing the walk of shame, full visual impact. Any questions?
Are we becoming a police state?
Government told American citizens they couldn't go to church on Sunday.
I've never seen anything like it. It may be the Russia other people grew up in, but not my America.
FBI warrant, come to the door now!
There's a heavy banging at my door. Open up! There's 15 marked units on my property. I got SWAT in the back of my house.
They took a battering ram to my door.
6 a.m. I hear boom, 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 and hear about 6 to 8 military-style soldiers, with the tallest one of them pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
FBI, we have an arrest warrant!
Shock you out of sleep, drag you out of your house half clothed, refuse to give you a warrant, ransack your house.
Now I'm facing 15 years in federal prison
for doing nothing other than exercising my right to free speech.
I had no reason to be attacked.
I hope that you remember Matt's name and the role you played in killing him.
How did we give the state this kind of power?
9/11 changed everything.
We're going to expand the Bureau from law enforcement to domestic intelligence. Legal shackles are now off.
It used to be Islamic terrorism. That threat has kind of dissipated.
Our focus is shifting.
They're moving to domestic extremism. It really paints anybody who's right of center.
What we need is a person to look at. And then we go find out what crime you did. If you're a pro-life, pro-family Catholic, they define you as radical. The demand for domestic terrorism vastly outstrips the supply.
When candidate Trump came down the escalators, the government had a meltdown.
We are going to drain the swamp.
We'll see about that.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
The Patriot Act and FISA were used against Donald Trump.
Google literally rewrote their news algorithm based upon what Trump was doing so that they could get this guy.
You just take out the word Russiagate and you put in COVID origins. You take out COVID origins and you put in Hunter Biden's laptop. You take that out and you put in January 6th. It's the replicated play from the deep state and their partners in the media.
They're not just deplatforming you. They are trying to throw people in prison.
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Hands on your head! These are anti-government.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech!
Violent extremists, and they must be dealt with. We can do anything we want.
Police State. Exclusively in theaters October 23rd and 25th. Tickets sold only on policestatefilm.net.
That's going to be a powerful film, don't you think, Reef? And, and fam, as you're watching this, you've seen me walk through this journey, and before I came here, as many of you know, there was calls that I got from the FBI, and there's also a sealed case, which my lawyers can't even find out what it is, that a grand jury was impaneled to. And what they're surmising is a FISA hearing was done on me in 2019, right when I came forward. So what a FISA hearing is they basically pull all your communications, your email, your phone, anything, everything, and can surveil you even track you with tracking devices. And it's all, you don't need warrants or anything else. So it's a very, and Edward Snowden is a hero because he warned us about it. He tried to tell us, and here we are, the surveillance state. And when I came here and found out that they had red notices possibly against me and oral arrest warrants, we're still finding out, my attorney, Rhoda Sterling, is still trying to find out. Interestingly enough, she had a bunch of clients that were not having red notices and got the answers right away. However, with me, Interpol has not answered her. They gave her a control number and said they'd let her know. And so, hey, Reef, if you could mute our guest, just because his mic is coming through. And what I wanted to say is that, we have a really great guest coming up who can talk about all of this and more, but we're also going to have a little fun. And, there's been a lot of serious stuff that's been going on. We, in the United States, for the first time in history, the Speaker of the House was removed by Matt Gaetz and 7 other Republicans, and all of the Democrats removed Speaker McCarthy. So I wrote an op-ed because I had a different take on it, right? It's not just chaos, not just regular theater, but I wrote this op-ed for RT. If you want to put it up there, Reef, so people could see it, that would be great. There it is. So please, go to my Twitter feed, try to link on that, try to, help me out because they try to suppress anything on RT. But basically, my hypothesis was this, and this comes from working with some of these people, as Rose McGowan would say, I've heard these people with their mics off, so I know what's kind of going on behind the scenes. They want an off-ramp to funding Ukraine. They know it's an election year. A bunch of people are going to lose their seats. It's very unpopular with voters. CNN's already admitting it. Mainstream media is already admitting it. They need an off-ramp, right? But there are a few elites who still want that, money, gravy, corruption, money laundering chain to continue. So anyway, my theory was, and I wrote about it in here, is that this was a bipartisan effort to basically off-ramp the funding to Ukraine by the chaos of the Speaker of the House. The new speaker will come in, most likely will not approve any kind of funding. Now, the Senate still has it. Now, the Biden administration, the few hawks that are there, are so determined to get it, they're trying to do it a different way through the defense, through grants. So anyway, read my thing. Tell me what you think. Give me your feedback. Give me your ideas. And while we're live, we're going to have a guest here in a minute, and we're going to be talking about a lot of different things and about Russia, of course, and their new show. But I wanted to do one thing right before I brought him on, and that's, how I always order things, because, I'm learning the language in Moscow, Russia. I'm learning Russian, and it's going a little slowly. I need to get with my classes again. And so when I order things, I never quite know what I want. So I ordered pecans. This came. It's not pecans, soft. I don't know what it is. I'm going to ask our guest. Maybe my guest knows what it is. I haven't opened it yet. I'll open it when our guest is on. And so I always have like little mystery things that come because I don't know the language. And so I ordered the wrong thing. It's always really fun. So I'm still having my culinary adventures in Russia and among other adventures. Love the metro. Everything's going well. It's really fun, having a great time on RT when I go in. It's a great family there. So so that's basically it. That's kind of the rundown of what's been going on for the last couple of weeks since you saw me last. And I've been working on my book. Today, I wanted to bring a guest that I really admire. And he is the co-host with a good friend of mine, Chay Bowes, who we recently had on the show 2 weeks ago. Chay is at large. He's reporting at large right now somewhere in Russia. And I have with us today someone who has a really cool YouTube show. And his name is Uday Singh. And he's also the co-host of the new show, Moscow Mules. Welcome, Uday.
Hi, Tara. Great to be on the show. Thank you so much for calling me. I mean, I watched you so many times on the news. I never imagined that I would actually go live with you on YouTube. So it's actually a a very nice moment. I mean, after seeing what you've been through, the story, how you escaped, everything. I'm so sorry for the quality of the video. I'm just sitting outside. I'm right near the Red Square. I'm basically 50 yards away from the Red Square. I had to visit a friend. Yeah, great to be on the show. I always wanted to ask you. You told me once when we were at a bar, you told me your favorite cocktail is the Moscow Mule. I wanted to ask you, do you know where the Moscow Mule was actually invented?
Was it New York or Chicago?
Yes. I mean, isn't it ironic that the
Dublin. I could have been one of my relatives who ran liquor. Because my uncles were actually wildcatters, and one of them got kicked out of California and had to go back to Ireland. He wasn't welcome in California for a bit. So I always wondered, did he? Anyway, go on.
Yes, and I mean it's a bit ironic, isn't it? One of the most popular cocktails with vodka, the Moscow Mule was actually invented in New York. I mean, I also wanted to ask you if you're related to the great John Reade.
Oh, I wish I was. Actually, my great grandmother was a communist, and she loved his work. And a lot of intellectuals at that period of time. I never met my great grandmother, but I heard about her, and she was a fearsome woman to behold. I'll try to find her for our fam sometime, but she was tiny, but fierce, and she loved him, Jack. Well, they call him Jack, but John Reade, yeah, Jack Reade, and they even have a memorial to him. I haven't been to it here though. I'll have to check it out.
You must. I mean, there's some very interesting places, of course, in Moscow. I mean, how long you've been in Moscow for? About 6 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Five. Yeah,
5 to 6 months. I mean, you've got a lot to see in Moscow, because I mean, I've been in Moscow for about 7 years. I finished my bachelor's here in Moscow from one of the most famous universities of international affairs, and then I started my own channel, The Gun Tour, where we analyze the Russian military-industrial complex and most of the weapons that are being used right now in the special military operation on the front lines, and most of the weapons that are for export to most countries, like the Arab countries, Egypt, Algeria, India, China. And I mean, it's been very interesting. I was very lucky to meet some very nice people from the Ministry of Defense, and they just allowed me to, they just go ahead and film all this equipment, and you've got a green light. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, Reef was bringing up your links. So the audience, if you want a link to that, you can go down below and you can find it. But Reef, could you bring up what you just brought up, that clip, and play it for just a second? There was a couple of shows that I watched, but one, you were really hot, which was interesting. I think that's the one Reef has. Reef, could you show?
Oh yeah.
So this is how they're made.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Gun Tour, your soon-to-be favorite weapons and travel show. Now, I went and tested the BMP-3, the Russian-made infantry fighting vehicle. If you haven't seen the video yet,
all right, Reef, thanks.
Some good memories.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, but it was really hot in there. Talk about that. They were making munitions, correct?
They were making the chassis of the infantry fighting vehicles and the armored personnel carriers. And my idea for the Gun Tour was to film all these manufacturing processes for all the countries that are actually buying. There are many countries that are buying Russian weaponry, including India, including my own. And I mean, we in the Indian Army, we swear by these weapons, because these are one of the most reliable, one of the most powerful weapons. I mean, we've got the American military-industrial complex that make extremely good weapons, like the F-16s, the F-15s, and the I'm just forgetting the M117 artillery systems. And Russia also makes all these artillery systems, and they export it to the Arab countries, to India, and we swear by these weapons. So what I wanted to do with the Gun Tour was to go to all these sites where they actually manufacture most of these weapons, and to show the world and to show everyone how these weapons are actually made, because we all see the results of these weapon systems. I'm not going to say where and exactly how. I don't want you to get demonetized. But at the same time, that already that ship has sailed.
You're fine.
So
You
I
can
mean,
do whatever you like. I mean, hopefully people just donate out of the goodness of their heart. I might see it or I might not.
yeah. So most of these weapons are being used in the current conflict in Ukraine against NATO weapons, against American weapons, the M117s, and soon to arrive the Abrams tanks. So these weapons are gonna go against each other head to head. And we're living in very interesting times. We never imagined that the American and the Russian military industrial complexes will actually go against each other in a modern conflict. These are very dangerous times. The chances of escalation are very high. And you and I, if we both live in Moscow, we both live in Eastern Europe. This is a very dangerous time to be alive. You know what I mean?
Far in the globe. I mean, except maybe, I don't know, Patagonia.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I wanted to come back to you and your story because you said you came 7 years ago. So could you bring the audience through like why you came to Russia in particular, and then how you ended up with Chay? So and how that journey took. And I know it happened in a pub, I can suspect, but I'll let you fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So I finished high school back in 2015. And when I did that, I wanted a change of scenery. I love my country. I love everything about it. But at the same time, after living there for about 18, 20 years, I just wanted a change of scenery. And I chose Moscow because it's one of the closest world capitals to India. The flight between Moscow and New Delhi is about 6 hours. And it's very easy to get here. And India and Russia always had a special relationship. Even if you look back at the Soviet period, we had a very special relationship. So my family was very much okay with the fact that they, go to Moscow, do your bachelor's there, you'll be fine. And I had the stupid idea that everyone in Russia, of course, everyone in Europe, they all speak English, right? And I was up for a shock because nobody, I mean, you've noticed as well. I'm sure you've noticed as well. Nobody here speaks English. Yeah. So we had to learn Russian very fast in order to survive. I finished my bachelor's here, and I loved it here. And there's this idea in the West, in most countries, that Russia is actually a very conservative country. People are very racist. And I just want to tell them that's actually not the case. In my 7 years here, I've never had any incident in which I was discriminated against or anything of that sort. So I really had a great time here. And, I never wanted to go anywhere else afterwards. I just said, I'm in Russia, beautiful city, in the city of Moscow, Petersburg, Sochi. I'm sure when you will actually be able to see the country, when you'll actually travel. I mean, you've been only here, 5 months? When you actually go.
I've seen Sochi. I've been to St. Petersburg briefly.
Yeah.
I've seen more. And then I've been to the Caucasus, and I've been to Vladivostok. So. And
have you ever faced any discrimination because of the fact that you're not Russian, or because you're from the United States, because a country that we're supposedly, fighting against in a proxy war? Did you ever feel any discrimination?
Not at all. In fact, people will, if they hear me speak English, they'll run up and be excited to see me. It's been the opposite. And once, I had a friend get lost who was supposed to meet me at a restaurant. And the waiter went and got my friend and led them to the restaurant because they didn't speak Russian. It's hilarious. Just so friendly and so warm.
Very welcoming people.
Very welcoming, very warm, very lovely. I've had nothing but good experiences. I only had one bad experience with a laundry delivery person who was sideways about how many bags of laundry I had and threw my socks down on the ground. But other than that,
yeah.
I don't want laundry either, so I kind of shared a sentiment, but whatever. But as far as as far as people are just like helpful, friendly, I have been lost and not said anything and like just looking at my phone and trying to get my bearings. And people will even walk up and volunteer and they can just tell that I speak English. It's kind of interesting.
And you'll get lost pretty often nowadays because I mean, as you know, the GPS in Moscow is not working at the moment because of all the drone strikes we've had. They're blocking all the GPS signals. So most of our navigation systems have gone a bit haywire, but I mean, that's the cost. That's the price we have to pay because I mean, we don't want all these drones flying at us. I've had a very hard time navigating through Moscow in the last few months because of the situation. But I mean, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, is it?
And the metro here is so efficient.
Yeah.
As well as Russian. It's
as
really...
long as the metro knows where to go, I think we're quite safe. We're covered in the whole navigation area.
And it's cool. You can and we don't talk about this very often, but you can rent the bikes. Bicycles,
yeah,
scooters. A lot of people love the scooters. Shay forbade me from using a scooter. He said no. So
he uses a scooter himself.
He uses it, but he told me I was not allowed to use a scooter. I might get hurt. He's, he just said it's
because the reason behind that is because people here, especially on scooters, they don't follow the rules of the road because there are no rules of the road for scooters. So it's quite a difficult thing. And scooters won't be relevant in the next couple of months because the winter is coming and it's going to be really cold. I mean, I'm sitting outside the restaurant and I'm freezing because I mean, it's only September. It's just crazy. But I want to show the viewers the Red Square live. So, I mean, in a few minutes, I'll go to the Red Square and I'm going to show you the beauty of the Red Square because, at night, it's such a beautiful sight. And I think our viewers will be very happy to see it. But coming back to the point, how I met Chay. So, I mean, if memory serves right, I think I met Chay in a bar. We were just sitting and I think I was speaking in English and he was speaking in English. And then we just started talking to each other. We started having beers and then let's just start a show. And then we just did it, and it's going quite good. We just started the Moscow Mules, and we're just two guys sitting together having a beer.
Let me pause you right there, Uday. Well, because your intro for your show is so amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
What you and Shay came up with. Reade, could you put it up for the audience? I want them to see the intro to the show. There you have it. And you know what I love about your show, besides, I love listening to Shay pontificate on geopolitical issues, which is always fun. But you bring also your knowledge of geopolitics and your perspective. You kind of have different perspectives sometimes. You also kind of nerd out on military stuff, which I think is good because a lot of shows kind of touch on news, but they don't really get into, that aspect, which right now is really important to people because of what's, everything that's happening with the proxy war. So
exactly. Because of the fact that the military is playing a very, very big role, the Russian military, the Ukrainian military, the NATO, the whole American military industrial complex. I mean, it is a battle. It is a battle of different technologies. It really is. It really is a Cold War 2.0. To be honest, and we're very close. I mean, I'm very, I don't really show it on the Moscow Mules, but I'm very afraid that an escalation might happen one of these weeks, one of these months, because if you analyze the trend, right, the Black Sea Fleet being attacked by NATO weapons, of course, they say that Ukraine is launching those NATO rockets, right? At the same time, the results of those attacks, the results of the Western weapons coming to Ukraine, the Russians will not just sit back and accept the fact, okay, NATO just supplied the weapons, it's all Ukraine, let's not escalate it beyond Ukraine. It is a very difficult situation. and we're very close. We're very close to midnight, because if there are any more escalations, especially after the delivery of the F-16s to Ukraine, which can carry anti-ship missiles, air-to-ground missiles that can actually attack Russian positions, we don't know where this can escalate to, and I hope we won't see that day when it actually happens. But I mean, I don't want to scare you. I don't want to be that guy that says, "Oh shit might hit the fan very soon." But I think we are actually going to that point, unfortunately.
I've been sounding the alarm since 2019. I was on a podcast in 2019 when I first came forward, and one of the things I brought up, besides what happened, what Joe Biden did, is I brought up the fact that if he became president, that he would take us to war with Russia. So I got a lot of flack and a lot of heat.
And you're right. And you're actually right. This is what he brought us to. When Trump was president, we never had anything close to the situation that we have now. The East and the West, Russia and NATO were never this close to war when Trump was president. And that's what he always says. I mean, if you listen to any of Trump's speeches, we never had any active conflicts with Russia during my presidency. And that's what he always says. And he's actually right. And it was, it's very strange. The Democrats, they always bring up this fact, oh, we are for peace, we are for liberals, we are for democracy and all that. But where is it right now? Where they're the most warmongering people that you will ever find, to be honest. And I don't understand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I don't understand. I mean, maybe you can explain to me as an American. Do they not have any sense where this might actually lead? Have they forgotten the fact that Russia has the world's biggest nuclear arsenal? If you push Russia to the corner, what's going to happen? I mean, do they not think about it? Does Victoria Nuland, does Anthony Blinken, does the Biden administration not understand Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO? Do they not understand where they're leading this conflict to?
They know exactly where they're leading it to. And this is where they want to lead it to. And I'll tell you why. There are some people behind the scenes, you never hear their names in public, but like Ted Koch, people like that. And then you hear the other ones like Blinken, you hear Vindman, who's kind of out in the outer skirts, but there's advisors that are close to the president that truly believe that a limited nuclear war is possible. And I have sounded the alarm that they're going to attack probably in the spring, and they're going to go for Crimea. Now, I have colleagues that are vehemently telling me that will never happen, never happen. I've had 2 colleagues tell me that. Absolutely not. That'll never happen. And I'm telling you right now, guaranteed in the spring, they're going to try to go for Crimea. And I hope I'm wrong, but I've been right every single prediction I've made thus far. And I don't like being right because I've seen this escalating and I've called it every time. And because this is what's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, they're making a shitload of money. They don't care if they wipe out a little bit of humanity because they're elite. 1. 2, they really truly believe their own propaganda to the point where they think that they can do a limited strike and that there will be no consequences. Or if there is, it'll be in Europe and not in America. And I think that is an error. And I think that is, unfortunately, there's a couple of people that have a lot of power that think in those terms. And, Anthony Blinken is sort of the front person, if you will, Jake Sullivan and them that kind of talk about the policies that are happening. But really behind the scenes, you have people that are pulling the strings and calling the shots that are, this is what they believe. And they believe.
And Biden is the perfect person for that, isn't he? I mean, he'll just say anything. He'll just say anything that they write on those little cards for him that he carries all the time. He's not there, is he? I mean, a good friend of mine always said, the lights are on, but no one's home.
Yeah, I mean,
it's scary.
An elderly man, but he's also got obvious signs of dementia. Let's just face it. It's not a rumor. I mean, I could tell You can tell dementia, you can tell when the lights go out, but half the members of Congress.
When he falls asleep.
Yeah, and well, I mean, and you look at the Soviet Union, they doing a comparison of that time. I remember all the old leaders right before the Soviet Union collapsed. Look at Rome right before it collapsed. This is what we're witnessing is the slow collapse of the empire. Now it's going to take probably 5 years if we don't have a hot war. If we have a hot war, I don't know what will happen, because I know one thing, it won't be limited. And,
No.
Putin said in his interview with Oliver Stone, when asked, okay, he was asked directly, what if there was, a nuclear war between the two powers? And he said, no one will win. No one will win. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The story is that the leaders in America and Great Britain don't mirror that sentiment. They don't say that. They actually
they think they're too far away, don't they? They're too far away from Europe. They're too far away from Asia. They don't think the weapons, the rockets, the intercontinental ballistic missiles will actually reach the United States. But I mean, they don't understand that they will. They will reach you. They will reach your houses unfortunately, I mean, if they actually lead us to it, they will reach those houses in Virginia. They will reach Washington. They will reach LA. They will reach everywhere.
Or there could just be a mistake, right, Uday? I mean, you know more about the actual intricacies of the weaponry, but like there can be an error that can lead to this, right?
Of course. I mean, a couple of decades ago, we did have an incident in which the captain, the commander of a Soviet nuclear submarine, had a false signal that said that the Soviet Union is under attack, and he is supposed to launch all the missiles and attack the United States and most NATO targets. He refused to carry out those orders. But I mean, it's a prime example of an error, because right now tensions are so high that you can't imagine. The Belgorod submarine, the Russian Belgorod nuclear submarine, has gone black. And what that means is that nobody actually knows where it's located at the moment. And it is a doomsday submarine that can attack any part of the world at any given moment. And that is scary. So we've got the Belgorod that has gone black. We've got Russian hypersonic missile systems that are maneuverable during hypersonic flight. These weapons you cannot counteract those missiles. Nobody can. The Russians can't, the Americans can't, nobody can. But the Russians have these missiles. The Americans are way behind in the hypersonic missile race. And I mean, that's a fact. Americans had a lot of failures in those in the development of those systems, but the Russians haven't. Okay, the Americans have very powerful anti-air defense systems. That's true. But who wants to risk all that? Who wants to die in a nuclear winter? Why risk that? For what? For Ukraine? For democracy? For freedom? I mean, I think the Europeans and everyone in the West, in Asia, everyone should focus on their own countries.
Yeah.
Focus on your own democracies, focus on your own freedoms, as if there are not enough problems at home. Just look at,
you heard me talk at the top that I thought that this recent thing, I wrote an op-ed about it that RT posted, and that was that I thought that this was America's way to off-ramp the funding going to Ukraine. But I don't think it necessarily means they want to move towards peace. What I think it means is kind of like what happened before in the gap between 2014 and 2022. I think that the US wants to draw in and spend more money on military buildup. And I think that they have their eye on Russia, but they also have their eye on China, unfortunately. You have Jake Sullivan, who, like, if he had his chance, we'd be already at war with China, right? I mean, you've got some real hawks in this administration. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? You've heard my opinions and you've read them, but like, what are your thoughts about where we go through the winter and into spring? What do you think is happening now? Are we headed towards perhaps some sort of negotiated peace, or no, or just long drawn out winter?
So my opinion at the moment is that the election cycles are coming very soon, even in Poland. Now, I don't know if I mean, of course, you've seen President Duda of Poland saying we cannot go on helping Ukraine. It's a drunk man full of weapons. We cannot go and help Ukraine all the time. We've got enough problems of our own. As you know, this is a very big change in rhetoric for Poland. That's one of the most anti-Russian countries in Europe, and we're seeing the same thing in America. We are seeing that they're trying to distance themselves from this conflict because they understand that no amount of weapons that they supply to Ukraine, no amount of money that they supply to Ukraine, it is not having any significant changes on the battlefield. The front lines have frozen, basically. They're just sending Leopard tanks, they're sending the Bradleys in, and they're all getting destroyed. Millions of dollars of American taxpayer money funded weaponry is just being destroyed against Russian defense lines at the moment because those lines have actually frozen. They won't change. So I think, I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but I don't know when this whole flow of weaponry will actually, start slowing down. The Russians have a very powerful production system. They're making millions of shells. They're making hundreds of tanks a month, a year. Sorry, 200 advanced tanks a year. They're taking out many tanks out of storage and upgrading them every single month. So they have a very, very good supply system. I don't know how long can NATO support this war. America can support this war. I don't know. But when they do understand, okay, this is not going anywhere and we cannot bear this burden any longer of this artificial conflict, I think they might actually sue for peace. But that it would be, but that is so, but I think it's so far away. We're no way close to it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I hope that we're both wrong in our predictions, and I hope that there is some sort of movement. But you're right; it just and we just don't know. We can't tell. I mean, so many things can happen.
There's so many variables in this whole situation.
And, you've got Poland, you've got other countries that are in the mix that have their own ideas, and it's really going to be interesting, an interesting but long winter. I did want to ask Reef, do we have any questions for Uday or comments?
Why do you think the West and NATO underestimates Russian capability?
So I don't think they underestimated. What they actually try to show the world that it's not that strong, but that's only on the Western mainstream media. Because if they start saying, oh, Russians are very strong, their military-industrial complex is very powerful, then their citizens would go and say, then why are we going against it? So they're just showing it to their people. Oh no, they're just so bad. They need washing machines to get the chips in, to make their tanks. I mean, this is all nonsense. Russians are bordering the Chinese, which are one of the biggest manufacturer of chips in the world. They don't need Ukrainian washing machines to get their chips to make their advanced weaponry. That's a fact. So I think this whole charade that, oh, Russians are not advanced enough, their army is backwards. This is all a ruse to dehumanize the Russians, to put Ukrainians, to put NATO up on a pedestal, but it's not showing. It's not showing on the battlefields. The images of the destroyed Leopard tanks, the Bradleys, the M117 artillery systems destroyed on the Ukrainian battlefields, they show a different picture. But I don't know how long the Western mainstream media will be able to continue this line. But let me say to you this. I mean, I've traveled Russia a lot. I've seen the depths of Russian military production. I've seen those factories working 24/7. It's not like, they're working 2 shifts and they stop working at night. They're pumping out millions of shells. They're pumping out hundreds of infantry fighting vehicles. They're pumping out thousands of armored vehicles. And they're doing it, I mean, as if their life depended on it. And it's true. They have a lot of resources. They've got so much energy, gas, oil, and they've got so many metal resources, titanium, iron ore, coal, everything. So it's unsustainable, this war against Russia. You're fighting against an enemy that has been preparing for war since 1945. I mean, I know the Soviet Union is no more, but Russia still continues the legacy of the Soviet Union. That's my opinion.
I think it's a valid one, and you would know. I mean, you have been looking into that. In fact, I wanted to show the second one, Reef, if you could bring it up, of you in the tank. If you could talk a little bit about this when you got into a tank, because it looked rather uncomfortable, if I may say. I'm not one to go in a tank. I'm pretty.
Let's see the video. Yeah.
Yeah, throw it up there. So maybe you can talk us through what you're doing there. You can see it.
I think I know this video. It's the one that I'm in an infantry fighting vehicle.
Yeah. So how did that feel, and what it looked like when you go down in it? It just looked really uncomfortable, and like kind of anyway.
It was a very strange experience. It was actually the first time in my life that I was in a full-blown military vehicle. Now, this isn't a tank. This is an infantry fighting vehicle. It is called the BMP-3, and it's a very light and a very, very fast machine. It's on tracks. It's got a V10, a very powerful diesel engine that can propel this monster to about, 60 kilometers an hour, and carries a 100-millimeter main gun along with rocket launchers. So it's a very powerful machine. I was in Kurgan. It's a city in the south of Russia that is built around this factory. I mean, it's a Soviet factory, but now it's a Russian factory now because the Soviet Union is no more. But what I'm trying to say is it was uncomfortable because they were trying to show me the limits of this machine. And they were taking it up sand dunes. They were taking it to the river. They were taking it all over the lake. We actually floated on a lake that was around 30, 40 feet deep. And it just floated across the river, went to the other side of the beach, and it could work perfectly well. I mean, I was surprised to see that a 30-ton vehicle could just go across with no problems,
Great. That's amazing.
So it was a great experience. I fired it. You feel the power of these machines, and I want to tell you that I didn't have any fun in actually operating this vehicle. I actually drove it. I fired it because I understand what the guy is feeling sitting in that machine. Your enemy is looking for you. They're trying to destroy you. They're trying to kill you because they know that if they don't, you will actually destroy and kill them. This is a machine that is meant to kill, to lay siege. And it's a very scary feeling to imagine yourself as an operator of this machine. If you understand what I'm trying to say here. Of course, it's all fun and games when you're 1,000 miles away from the front lines. I mean, for a guy like me, right? That has nothing to do with the war. But just imagine yourself in the shoes of a Russian guy who knows he has to serve and who has to go and defend his country. And just imagine if you're in the shoes of a young Ukrainian guy who has been forced by his government, who has been forcibly conscripted and forced by his government to go and fight against his Russian brothers because NATO told them to. You know what I mean? Because the government in Kiev is fully controlled by the United States, is fully controlled by NATO. And they're telling you, hey, listen, you Ukrainian guy, you need to go and fight and kill Russians. For what? For Donbass, that is populated with who? With Russians. So, I mean, it is such a sad situation. if you for the guys here in this part of the world, and it breaks my heart. But at the same time, I mean, I still want to make content to show the world what weapons are like, how you feel inside these tanks, these firing all these weaponry, and it's been a great experience. And now I want to show you. Actually, I mean, if you're okay with it, I would like to go to the Red Square if the if the signal doesn't break down.
We should do that because you know what it is tomorrow. Tomorrow is President Vladimir Putin's birthday, so we need to raise. So I think going to the Red Square is quite perfect, actually. And while you're walking, I'm going to Reeve. Could you bring up our Moscow mule recipe? Oh, here's to Vladimir.
Cheers to Vladimir Putin. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you his office in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll show you where he sits.
Great. I did try to get him on the show. He said he was busy. He's probably out having beers with Chay. You know, who knows?
Chay's in Kazan at the moment.
Yes, I know. He said he posted those beautiful pictures of, the Kazan. So he's on assignment. He's the roving.
Chay is at the moment. Yeah, he's covering the situation in Kazan. It's actually a beautiful city. I was there a couple of years ago during the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup. And I don't know if you saw the Western coverage before the start of the FIFA World Cup that was held in Russia. They all said, "Oh, it's going to be bad. They're Russian football hooligans. Don't go there." And it turned out to be one of the best FIFA World Cups of all time because it was super safe. It was super interesting. And we had a great time. So behind me is the entrance to the Red Square. And this is the Four Seasons Hotel that is right across the Red Square. This is where President Obama actually stayed in when he came and visited Russia back in, I think, 2013. That was before the Crimea situation. Is the wind bothering? Is the wind affecting the audio a lot?
Not at all. No, there's wind.
No, there's heavy wind at the moment.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Wow. See, Uday, am I going to last the winter or am I going to be like making my way down to Sochi? I don't know. We'll see.
Sochi, I mean, do you enjoy skiing?
I love skiing. I downhill ski.
Okay, that's perfect because I might actually go as well to Sochi. I go to Sochi every winter for the ski season, and it's perfect. I think you're really gonna like Sochi because of the ski season.
Oh, good. It's a little bit warmer, a tad bit. So
because it's close to the sea.
Yeah, there you have it.
That's why.
Well, being a California girl, it might be a better climate for me. I don't know.
I think you'll really like Sochi.
So
Sochi.
On the building behind you.
So this building is the Four Seasons Hotel, and right now I'm going to be entering the Red Square. You see it?
Beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna try and turn the camera if I can.
Oh, it's all right. We're moving with you. It's a little it's not too wobbly. And everyone that's watching, it's not too early. I know on the East Coast there, it's like in the afternoon, but never too early to have a Moscow Mule. Right? There you have it. Okay, so.
This is the Red Square, ladies and gentlemen. I've just entered it. And of course, Tara, you've been here quite a few times. What were your first feelings when you entered the Red Square? Did you feel the history of this place when you're walking on these cobblestones and just seeing this beauty right over there? St. Basil's Cathedral is right over there. That's, of course, the Kremlin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a beautiful place.
Photos just don't do it justice. You have to see it, you have to see it in person. It's just like one of those things, where you have to experience it and the whole feeling of it. It's good. It was very, very moving. I was jet lagged and it was dawn when I got to Moscow, but I went straight to Red Square first.
Of course. I mean, every person that arrives in Russia, that arrives in Moscow. This is the first place that they actually go to because, I mean, it's an awesome place.
It is.
Very, very beautiful. I'm actually surprised that we still have signal because they've got all these systems that block the signals here, you know, because of the drone strikes and everything for security purposes. So I'm still happy we've got signal. So if the signal breaks at any moment, you'll know why.
So real quick, you know, when can people watch your show, Moscow Mules with Chay Bowes?
So Moscow Mules, we're releasing it every Monday. We do a weekly roundup because all of us have our day jobs and we are able to shoot it during the weekend. And then we upload it. We upload it during the weekend. So, and we talk about everything that happened during the past week. Like last week, we talked about what happened in the Canadian Parliament when Justin Trudeau and Zelensky were applauding a former SS soldier. And they welcomed him to the Canadian Parliament. Oh, this guy fought against the Russians during the Second World War. Well, who fought against the Russians during the Second World War? It was the Nazis. It was the Axis powers. How could you be so stupid to actually call that guy? And that guy was just, oh yes, Borgia. He was just standing there.
Trudeau's done. He needs to step down. He really does. He's done. Oh, look. Oh, that's gorgeous behind you. So, Reif, do we have any questions or comments about the Red Square? Okay. Oh,
so if you want to know, that's where President Vladimir Putin sits.
Okay.
That's his office right over there. For all our American guests, didn't know, you know where he is. Yeah. And of course, this is the legendary supermarket that had its origins in the Russian Empire. It's called Dom. All of the luxury brands that are supposedly not allowed to be sold in Russia, like Cartier, most of them are still being sold in Russia, of course, because people still have to make money. Business won't stop just because Europe decided, oh, we're not going to do business with Russia. Where there is demand, there's always going to be supply.
And what is your opinion about the sanctions? How effective were they?
I mean, it's such an interesting topic. The Western sanctions against Russia. Life really hasn't changed for the average Russian since the sanctions have been levied upon Russia, because of the fact that we in Russia, I think I can say now, we in Russia, we border China, one of the biggest exporters, manufacturers of anything ever in the world. We've got one of the biggest land borders with China. And of course, they want to do business. They want to supply us with everything that they have. And you mustn't forget that China is a very close partner to Russia. Yeah. So we don't have a lack of anything. I don't know. You've been to the supermarkets. You've seen everything. Do you see that there's...
I've shown films of it, yes, on my Telegram channel. You know, and it's very abundant and very robust, and nothing like what the Western propaganda tells us that Russia.
Oh yeah.
And the food is organic and it's healthy, and there's no pesticides, there's no hormones in the food, things like that. And I've noticed, you know, a change, you know, in my health for the positive, because I don't have all those chemicals coming at me. And you know, I really I want the audience to know before we sign off here. And I really appreciate all the time that you've spent and taking our audience around Red Square. But could you tell people where they can find you and follow your work?
Wait, just 1 second. The wind blew the earpiece off. That's why I have wired headphones, because I know the wind would just blow it off. We are available. I mean, I've just started a Twitter channel. I mean, I should have started it many years ago, but I never focused on Twitter. I mean, I'm on Instagram, instagram.com, UDAY_KALI. I mean, that's my Instagram. I mean, of course, it's my personal Instagram, but I do post a lot on what's going on here. I mean, how the life is like in Russia through the eyes of a foreigner, because I mean, we are foreigners here. I mean, other than that, I've got my Twitter account, which I hope you'll attach in the description below. It would be great.
Post it on the thing so people can see it on my Twitter. So
yeah, that would perfect. I mean, that's all. We're gonna be working a lot with the Moscow Mules, and hopefully we're gonna come up with more shows that show the beauty of this country and how people live here, to show the human aspect of what's going on in Russia. You know, to counteract the dehumanization that the Western mainstream media is trying to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's very important to do that. Very important.
Yeah.
And you and Shay are the right people to do it. And really,
you as well, Tara. You as well. I mean, the very fact that you came here to seek refuge, that sends a message to all the dissidents around the world who wish to speak out, but they can't. They fear for their lives. They understand that there are people like Edward Snowden, like TheTaraReade, and we've got another friend that I'm not going to mention his name because I don't have his permission to mention his name.
Oh,
but
can.
I mean,
Chris Ems is here. He's going to be on my show. Actually, he's very public.
Chris Ems is a great guy. Yeah, exactly.
You know, Uday, when I first got here, I was like, okay, because there's that initial. I did my press conference right for Russia, saying, "Hey, I'm staying. Like I'm looking for things are bad. I can't go back to the U.S." But I had packed for 5 days, like 7 days. So
I can imagine.
Chris met up with me and he was like, okay. And he sent me groceries. He, forwarded me out.
Yeah, Chris is a wonderful guy. I think the audience would be very happy to see his perspective on things, because he is the financial guy. He knows a lot about finance, and the perspective that we can get from a financial point of view of this whole conflict and everything that's going on right now is gold. Yeah.
He's amazing. He's amazing. He's helpful to all of us. He kind of keeps us all together. That's how I met, everybody else. And he's good at crypto. That's his thing, but he's good at other things. And, it was amazing that the American government, even though he's a British citizen, a citizen of Great Britain, went after him.
Yeah.
Extradite him, and he ended up in prison and had to go out. So he has his story.
He has an amazing story. And I think it would be great for you to show it to the world what Chris went through.
Stories about us, Uday. You and Shay have got to tell all the stories of all of us.
Oh yeah, our journey has just begun, Tara. Yours, mine, Shay's, and I think it's gonna be an amazing journey. I hope the world comes to its senses, the West comes to its senses, that this is a senseless war that they're trying to push. The military-industrial complex needs to understand that this is not the way that you want humanity to go to. This is very dangerous. You're risking nuclear war here. Everything may seem fine in your backyards, everything's good, there are no problems, but things can go wrong very fast. Don't forget, we can't forget what happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, we want to go forwards, not backwards. And think about if we put all that energy into innovation and collaboration and economic economic competition is a lot more fun than war. Don't you think? I think so.
Yeah. But some people don't want competition. They want to be the hegemon. They want to control everything, because competition makes you actually work a lot harder. I don't know. We need to go down that rabbit hole in a different episode.
There you have it. Well, I hope you come back to the show. You're always a friend to have. And maybe having you and Shay at once too would be really fun to have you both on. But
it would be perfect. I think it would be a great dynamic.
But I hope to see your show take off with great success, and and I know that our audience will be tuning in and watching more of your adventures there.
Thank you so much, Tara. With your support, of course, would be perfect.
Of course, you always have it. There you have it. Have a good night, everyone. So everyone who joined, thank you so much. Look at below, look at the comments below. You can find how to get a hold of Uday and ask some more questions. Thanks for your patience while I was gone for a couple of weeks, but I'm back. And don't worry about that YouTube demonetization. They're always deplatforming. Who cares? They take my videos down, I put them back up. We got Rumble, we got Twitter, we got other things. So have a good evening, everyone. Have a good week. And, let's hope that some of the leaders decide to give peace a chance. Checking out. Night, everyone.